You are live on the stream, my friend. Do you want to give a quick introduction to those that don't know your name? So.
Yes, hi, I'm Solheim. I'm the current head coach of Young and Beautiful. I've been last season. I've also been with We Have Worked in European Contenders for the previous season, as well as Trials and Open Division.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, man. I'm gonna try and toy a little bit with mic volume because it seems like you're a little quiet.
I can fix that. Just 1 moment.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. Just in case we end up tossing this on YouTube, I would love to.
Is this better?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, man. All right, so I was thinking Hollywood. So Overwatch League, I guess the Guangzhou Charge, I don't know how to pronounce that name very well. But they played the Seoul Dynasty in a show match this past week, and I'm gonna toss you the Visor link so you can join me once I get that all set up.
Appreciated.
And they played a map on Hollywood, and I've always liked Hollywood because even with GOATs, I don't know if it's the daylight, I don't know if it's the map structure, but I've always found matches much easier to follow in Hollywood. It is a lot easier to see what's going on, especially when you get to like the second point. So I figured we'd go over that one because, you know, it works out because I'm working on trying to find a tier 2, tier 3 team, and I'm working on my own GOATs understanding. Solheim, for those who don't know, put out a remarkable VOD that went over the basics, but also some of the more in-depth nuances of GOATs versus GOATs.
Hopper was hovering Winston at the beginning instead of D.Va.
Oh, yes.
And just to talk about that a bit,
okay.
It might be something they don't do at all, but it's something we've seen from Gladiators Legion, especially in the Contenders NA. And my team as well, we try to play with quite a bit of success in EU. Like, we haven't won a whole map, but we won rounds playing it. And you basically look at what D.Va provide in GOATs, which is you have the DM, which means you win the Shield War.
Right.
And you have like the basic damage, ability to chase, ability to go for solo for someone out of position. But against better team, you won't find the solo targets to go on. They'll be able to outlast your DM. You will not be able to efficiently grabs, all these things. So teams been experimenting with Winston because on the patch that the Contenders was played 129, when Brigade could still bash through shields.
Yes.
What you could do is that if Winston jumped on the Brigade, the Brigade stunned him, and the right swing, you could one-shot the Brigade with the Winston.
Oh.
And it also is just, in theory, more damage than a D.Va. So in the first fight without ultimates, playing Winston has a higher damage output than playing D.Va.
Really?
But you do lack that big finishing D.Va bomb. You lack that ability to quickly win fights with the air. You don't have that really easy win kind of option with the D.Va bombs and with the DM.
Right.
Just randomly doing a mechanical outplay.
Right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I had originally understood double main tank to be ran would be the Winston would be primarily using his bubble to isolate the target, kind of how you described, cutting off the aura, cutting off Discord, and eating the shield bash like you said, and then you just assassinate the first target that you see. How would high ground factor into, you know, executing that play? Maybe let's just say on this map, if they were to run it on this map, would the Winston hotbar be utilizing any of this high ground near cafe, near this? Like, how would you anticipate it to be played if this was what it was played?
So I do not like putting the Winston away from the Reinhardt. I like having the Winston right next to Reinhardt, serving the same purpose of, which is, I'm still used to 1.29.
Right.
So you'll place it even next to the Reinhardt to block the bash from the Brigade.
Okay.
So I would always play the Winston right next to the Reinhardt to block the bashes from one side. And what you do then is you taste their front line because their team has to play close. So you taste 2 people. The Brigade is looking for bashes. You effectively taste 3 people.
Okay.
You often have Zarya within range as well because she can't effectively flank on this map. You're tasting 4 people, which means you build your ultimate in 2 mags, maybe 1. And you should then be able to just like kind of create this pseudo D.Va bomb. And I say pseudo D.Va bomb because what D.Va bomb does as a solo ult is that it creates an explosive amount of space. And it's kind of the same that a Winston ult does in this comp.
Okay.
You're either able to finish off targets in the front line because you deal so much damage that the Sen cannot deal with. The Sen, Lucian, Break cannot deal with the damage you deal because Ryan swings plus Winston cleave.
Right.
A bunch of cleave.
Right. And so it's like you're relying off of cooldowns, and you've got Winston's Tesla cannon hitting 3 targets. That's even with armor, that's still 90 DPS, something like that. So
yeah. It's a fair amount. Like D.Va doesn't do anything; she shoots shield, right? Which deals damage to shield and it cleaves through the shield as well.
Okay.
So
okay.
it's just more damage. It makes you better not counting ultimates. Of course, with ultimates, the D.Va bomb is very, very strong. You can solo win fights with it. Only that.
Right. And you're also sacrificing the ability to eat grabs. So your grabs or combos are generally a little bit inferior, and you don't have as much counterplay for the enemy's grab bomb if that's what they go for. Although now I don't know. I watched your video. I'm like, I don't know if I should look for that.
Yeah. No, I am a really big fan of the idea that you use ultimates to win fights, but also to prepare for the next fight. That overusing ultimates doesn't necessarily mean using too many, but it's not building enough of your current.
Right.
So let's say you use the bomb to split the team, and it doesn't kill anyone. That means you're able to pick them off one by one, building ult charge from every one of them.
Right.
But if you kill all 6 with the bomb and grab, you lose 2 ultimates, and then you're sitting with no ult charge in those heroes. And if the enemy team is able to use just one, then they don't kill you, and then they use a second one, and they're able to build a third ultimate off that.
Right.
By standing out to fight for longer.
So you might win more concisely, but you put yourself at a future disadvantage.
Yeah.
Okay. So all that conversation was really interesting, but ultimately Hotba does go D.Va. So we will. Yeah. So I noticed immediately that so D.Va prioritizes controlling high ground here. But something interesting happens here too. Like that is a Lucio escorting the D.Va up there as well. What are your thoughts on that?
So what I would say is, I think this is a mistake. Like personally, I think this is a mistake.
Okay.
The only reason you would place D.Va in that position is so you can DM the entirety of the Reinhardt shield.
Okay.
Because the normal rotation you want to do is that you first want to use your whole DM to not allow the Reinhardt to swing, because it's not dealing damage to shield, which means you're winning shield war. Which means that if you just hold shield, you'll eventually win and kill the enemy Rein. And then you want to bubble afterwards to do a quick engagement, and then shield up again before they can discard you.
Right. And at that point, theoretically, you'd have a full shield too, because like you said, DM is saving shield. Use full DM.
DM saves it towards, like, Zarya still deals damage to shield.
Right.
If you want to escort someone up the high ground, I would like to present the idea of escorting Zarya up the high ground.
Okay.
So if you escort Zarya up the high ground, you use the first person bubble on the ground, you then play slow. Of course, you can get engaged on. It's just like the basic rule in GOATs. If someone does a rotation in GOATs, then you should always just straight go. Like, I think Seoul Dynasty here, they could just go in the Rein. They should be able to kill, because Lucio's missing, which means that the Seoul Dynasty Lucio, he could run straight through the enemy team. No one can kill him. If Brig bashes him, then the Rein dies, because then bash disadvantage. So your Lucio can just run through and boop the Rein into the enemy team, right? An aggressive play from Lucio.
And Rio would not have the advantage of being able to initiate back out, because the Lucio is no longer there.
And he wouldn't be able to keep up with the Lucio running towards him, because he doesn't have a Lucio.
Right.
So positioning your Lucio away from your Rein is basically just giving up your Rein's life if the enemy is aggressive upon it.
Okay. One more question. I do see pretty consistently at a lot of tiers D.Vas positioning themselves away from the Reins, even in non-grab eating scenarios.
I disagree with this.
You don't like this. So the free,
I do not like
it's
this.
Free damage on the back line, but you are more concerned with using your D.Va to win the shield war, to win that frontline war, correct?
Yeah, because if your Rein is alive, you have a shield. If their Rein is dead, they don't have a shield.
Right. Okay.
Which means that you can just stand there and kill them. Yeah, shield advantage is like, if you're able to kill the Rein and keep your Rein alive, is really, really good.
Okay, so you are really,
you always want to do that.
Really revolving around that Rein versus Rein battle. Like you said, sure. Like you said in your video, the carries for the composition. You want to carry those carries.
You're just using all the utility of all the heroes to keep them alive.
Okay.
And to kill the enemy counterpart.
Okay. So they do Seoul recontest this. It looks like with the D.Va and a Lucio of their own. Do you think that's a good move from Seoul? Do you think they should have just let it go? I mean,
I think you go in the Rein.
Okay.
I think they could just push into the Rein there.
Right. So you think going as the charge, make a mistake, Dynasty doesn't punish it by attempting to, you make a mistake there? Well, we're going to contest you on that mistake rather than punishing the mistake in another area.
Yeah, okay. And I think that's the wrong thing. Like, it goes, if you can always mirror. If you think you're the worst team in the composition, but you're the better mechanical team, you can always mirror the play. If you always mirror the play, you should win if you're mechanically better.
Oh, okay. So in terms of, when we mirror the play, you talk about in terms of positioning?
Yeah, like let's say a Brig player is not very confident on Brig.
Mm-hmm.
An enemy Brig is very confident on Brig.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say my player is the unconfident one. What I would do is that I would tell my player, hey, we don't actually need you to do anything except what their Brig is doing. You just do exactly the same as their Brig and contest her always. Contest your counterpart.
Okay.
Because that way you're completely denying her because it's a deny hero.
Right. Right.
If you bash their Brig for bashing your Rhine, she will never be able to bash, right? Because
Right.
both Brigs go down.
Mm-hmm.
So mirroring is a kind of thing that I would suggest to my players if I. This sounds really mean, but it's like if they aren't as good as the opponent.
Yeah.
So stop the opponent from setting up things because we aren't able to set up equally good things as them.
Right.
I think the right call is to go in, but if you're not confident in that call, then mirroring is just as good.
Cool. So basically, you're saying if this is not to my advantage, I'm not going to let you make a play.
Yeah.
Kind of like it's the general idea.
Because goats play time, right? You should never full hold with goats. No one should be able to full hold control point with goats, which is why Quad Tank back in the day was never played in 2CP almost. Never, except maybe Hanamura at certain points. But Quad Tank in general wasn't played until 3-3 came along on 2CP and first point hybrid.
Okay.
Because you should never be able to full hold with it.
Right.
On attack it happened, but on defense never. Because ult advantage, you can just say, hey, I'm going to farm a Grav, a Diva Bomb, and a Shatter, and I cannot lose the fight anymore if I have a defensive ult.
Especially when you're playing Zen Goats. You have 2 support ults. Like, it is hard to lose a fight when you have 2 support ults alone. Much less, like you said, Grav, Shatter, Diva Bomb.
Yeah, and if you have those, you can outplay 2 support ults. Like, say, you grab, and they trance, because they have to transit unless they, or they die. If they beat, they also die. And the only way they can and then you just back up from the grab. Yeah, we got the chance out, so we're just gonna back up because you already have Shatter and grab. You're not looking to build ultimates.
Right.
So then you Shatter inside the grab when the grab's ending. Then they're all on the ground. You're now forcing beat.
Right.
And then you have Diva Bomb to place on top of that afterwards.
Right.
So you have the resource to force out 2 defensive ults in goats.
Right.
Just by playing slow. So.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
So
unless it's a payload, defense should always have the advantage. Attack has the advantage on payload. Yeah.
So say that sentence one more time.
Okay. So on payload, defense is the only place the defensive goats has the advantage, and especially on the 1-3. Is it 1-3-1 that's live now? Yeah, I think it is. 1-3-1, where defensive goats is just stupidly good on payload right now.
Really? So the team.
Yeah.
So the team that gets you think the payload is more of just an obnoxious thing that the attacking team has to deal with, or
so in Europe, quad tank and a very tank composition has been played on payload map defense always.
Okay.
The reason for that is that we sit on payload until we die, and then you spend 4 minutes in each point because that's how long it takes to kill us.
Oh.
And then we just need to win one fight. And then we just need to win one fight
so,
because it takes so long to kill them. And with the break change and everything, then just even more.
Okay, so you're literally just you're playing for time. So you're not you're not even playing to necessarily win the fight, but just out sustain.
So you know spawn camping on payload maps, right?
Yes. Like that happens with.
You did that because the distance the payload need to go is pretty much the same on all the payload maps.
Right.
And you can get 3 fights on every payload map.
Route 66. Correct.
Route 66. You fight and spawn, you die once.
Yeah.
And then you use ultimates in that fight, try to make it last as long as possible. The second fight, you run back, and then you just do not use any ultimates. You build ultimates, and by the time you come back to the third one, it should be overtime. And then you just takes ultimates because you didn't use anything second fight. Right.
So you're like, okay, I know we're planning on losing the first 2 fights, but we're gonna drag them on as long as we can. All die in payload, take the fight to payload, and then we come back with an overwhelming ult advantage, and the payload is still within contestable distance. So, yikes! That's a whole new level of mind games. That is
Yeah, no, this is what Europe's been playing for at least 2 seasons of Contenders. We've been playing like this, and it's. It's just stupid. No, playing for time is everything in payload.
Okay.
The game is made to be played for time, not to play for kills.
Right. And we ultimately think about
that's why Ghost is good.
Right. Okay. So it brings there's strong in the team fight. There's also strong in playing for the what would be not the payload but the objective. The objective. They're good in applying objective. So
like let's say. Team deathmatch. Ghost would be so bad in team deathmatch because they just wouldn't be able to kill anything.
Yep.
They would just stand there. But in Overwatch, it's enough to just stand there.
Yeah.
Because you're contesting point.
Right.
And point pressure is so good in Overwatch. That's one of like the main issues with why tanks are really good. Like, yeah, you can counter them, but it takes ages. So as long as they get value from just staying alive, and you don't, then
I had never thought about it that way. Now, when discussing win conditions for different teams, I've always coached teams, apply point pressure if they have better poke. You want to try and minimalize, and then all in whatever accessible targets there. But I never thought of it as the strength of GOATs actually revolves around the objective, not necessarily all with their synergy.
No, it's 100% point.
Wow, that's a revelation. That's fascinating. Thank you. All right, so we're here. It looks like Charge is about to execute a shield bash play. I think we caught the tail end of it there. Yeah, right there. Now, excuse me. Marvel survives, and he is the Dynasty's main tank. And was the bubble there? It's hard because unfortunately Visor doesn't render it super well.
Look at where Ryze is right now. Yeah.
Okay, so
they set up the bash play without Ryze in position.
Oh, okay. So Ryze is the Zenyatta who we're spectating. Now, when you mean he's not in position, does that mean he did not have line of sight fast enough?
Yeah, he doesn't have line of sight. He's not far enough forward here.
Okay.
Like normally you'd be able to discard here, right?
Yeah.
And the bubbles are cleansed. But if you look at the health bars of Guangzhou, health bar is too low to be forward. And the issue that they have is that they respect him being low HP. Your D.Va is low HP, it doesn't matter. Like if you lose D.Va and you're able to push her around, you win every fight.
Right.
But another issue is that the bubble is used first here. If you look at statistics, I think it's 95% win rate towards a team that uses bubble lost in a fight.
Okay. And I'm looking after your video. Was Rio discorded? And he was not.
Yeah.
He was not discorded. So that bubble was used incorrectly because, as you said, bubble is to cleanse discord primarily. And even without going at that in depth, he was just turning corner. Ryan was not within swinging distance yet. So that is a definite waste of bubble. Okay, cool. So they are at the bubble disadvantage. That basically means Munchkin can bubble reactively, which I anticipate he does.
But here's a really big mistake for Seoul Dynasty.
Okay.
Like I said in the video, holding corners is really important.
Yes.
But here, both Ryans are just standing in the open.
Right.
If either Ryan decides to take the corner of the tree here...
So like this tree right here.
Ryan stands there. Yeah.
Yes.
That forces the center we're watching to either go into server room to discard him, or somewhere else, because they need to touch point. They need to get the point somehow.
Yes.
And if the Ryan just stands there, it would be really, really hard to stop that.
Right.
Like, how do you get to point if you can never discard the Ryan, but your Ryan is always discarded?
Right.
If he walks through.
Right. And we could see the Seoul Dynasty's backline rotating this way, and have anytime Rio wants to contest, they're going to have a discord advantage. I'm going to toss that term around because that's new for me. Whereas Charge... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so you have three main advantages in GOATs. It's bubble, it's bash, and it's discord.
Bubble.
All the three different kinds of advantages.
Right. So bubble, bash, discord. Okay.
So your goal in GOATs against GOATs is to effectively gain all these three. And if you usually trade the bash advantage for either one of the two or both, depending on how good you set up the bash.
Okay. So that is a trade. You bash to force bubble, or you bash to clear. Like, what do you mean bash trading for discord? Is that bash? You bash to set up your discord, or?
Yeah, you bash to set up your discord, and then you either force bubble to cleanse it, or you have discord. Meaning you either have discord or bubble advantage.
Okay.
The second way you set up advantage is if they don't want to invest their bubbles, they haven't invested their bubbles into the right. Instead of setting up discord with bash, you can set up Zenyatta right click with bash. Meaning you're trying to force the bubble before because you one-shot the Ryan.
Okay, so if bubbles have not been forced, charging a right-click and then setting it up with your right-click means that even if he gets bubbled afterwards, your team can burn through that bubble and they're not going to be able to heal up that Ryan enough to where he's not necessarily.
Why would they bubble if he's not discorded?
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So it's like changing pace of dive, right? If you play a really defensive dive in one fight and you win, then they're going to be walking in expecting a defensive dive, and then you just super aggressive dive into their spawn.
Okay.
It's the same thing here. If they're expecting you to go for discard advantage, you don't immediately bubble after the bash. But if you bash right click, you want to bubble immediately as the bash hits. which is why in Europe teams bubble earlier than in NA after bashes. But in general, if there's no bash coming, NA bubbles before EU. Does that make sense?
Yes. That's wow. That's interesting. It is really fascinating how you can take something like that and go all like take it to the fullest level. I'm gonna have to rewatch this again. Okay, fascinating. Let's keep moving. Okay, so question I have for you. This is something I always coach Zaryas on when they're not playing into GOATs. So a common mistake I see, even up to Masters, is a lot of Zaryas will focus their beam onto Ryan's shield when there are available targets directly behind the shield that you could pressure with right clicks. However, GOATs, more so than any other composition, does revolve around the health of that Ryan shield. Would you prime? I mean, I guess it's situational, but let's say you're coaching Happy here, the Charge's Zarya. Do you want him primarily beaming Reinhardt as much as possible, or his shield, or do you want him also looking for right-click opportunities on, say, you know, Jaehong, Jesse, Fleta, whoever's in the back? Situational, okay. But what do you think?
Yeah, so the basic thing, can I just take control for a second?
Go right ahead, yeah, please.
Okay, so I do not like this positioning from him in the first place. I think this positioning is not where you should be. The instant you take this mirror match and holding this corner in a wide angle, what your Zarya can do is that he can walk on the side of your shield. Okay, so this doesn't make sense in the first place because your Zarya is alone, yeah?
Yes.
But the thing is, they have committed to the Ryan fight. Once this Ryan and this Ryan meets, so let's say this guy, the shield,
yes,
and this guy with the shield, once they meet, they cannot move.
Right.
Either if they move, they die.
Okay.
So if one Zarya is standing here and beaming straight into the shield,
yes,
and the other Zarya rotates to the side like this, standing here, and then beaming onto the background with right clicks. If the D.Va DMs this,
that means you can combo the Ryan, right?
Yeah. If the Zarya focuses this, the Ryan dies.
So I'm gonna dig up.
Goes for this.
I'm gonna interrupt you really quick because Wizard released a video many months ago on using attention as a resource. You know, drawing attention. We've heard Arrow talk about it. So you're using your Zarya, going, hey, listen, my Zarya is no less effective from a different angle. But if I put my Zarya on a different angle, it means it's gonna, you know, either they're gonna be forced to reckon with our Rhine, or they're just just let our Zarya get free damage, or they're gonna focus. They're gonna have to take resources and apply them to our Zarya, which means we can easily burn down their Rhine. So it's like they have to pick and choose their poison in a way. Am I understanding that correctly?
Especially on the live patch where you can't bash the Rhine through shield.
Okay.
If you don't flank your Zarya and they flank their Zarya, their grab should be on 100% when yours on 20%.
Okay.
The advantage is that big.
Wow.
It's the same thing I talked about Zarya in the high ground here, right?
Yes.
If the Zarya's up here beating everyone, you cannot push the Rhine because if you do, the Zarya drops and she can still bubble from high ground, whatever. But your backline will die. Zarya just one-shots the backline. Sendai, Lucio, that whatever it does.
One minor question in that regard. Yes. Do you think Zarya should look to take a flank or high ground once they've built up charge or after? Because obviously projected is pretty much guaranteed 40 charge. But when you are on the flank, do you find Zaryas have a harder time building charge with personals? Because there's not that fire strike, there's not that spam.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Zarya uses first personal next to the Rhine. So she walks like straight in front of the shield, right in front of the Rhine. Then she flanks instantly. Like first bubble is used next to your Rhine, and then you go to a flank position.
Okay.
This is something that Eagle Gaming did last season, winner of Contenders Europe last season. Is that their Zarya hardest? He did this every fight, and he had on average, was it 1.1 grabs per fight?
Oh jeez. My gosh.
Yeah. No, and he just threw them. Like he 1/3 of his grabs get eaten, but he just had them all the time. He used grab every fight.
So basically, he's like a big tracer, you know.
He's a really big tracer. You're really big tracer. And especially when you see so there's a big mistake from Rise and there's a big mistake from Sunba here.
Okay.
That we just saw in the play. Like Sunba goes up on the high ground to contest something.
Okay.
Mistake from him. He needs to focus on the Rhine battle.
Yes.
Rice does not punish that mistake because he follows him and discards D.Va. Because that means he loses shield pressure. So effectively, Samba gets what he wants by doing this. He gets focus, attention. And Rice does the mistake of focusing him. Like
right. So it's like, you know, you might get a couple of body shots on a D.Va, maybe charge up your trance 6 seconds, 5 seconds faster, maybe.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the win condition for the GOATs, you're making a sacrifice for a little bit of ult charge. And
Yeah.
like Trance is really, correct me if I'm wrong, but Trance is not the strongest ult. And in GOATs versus GOATs.
I would say it's a very like. So this might sound weird,
Mhm.
but I think Diva Bomb is the best ultimate in GOATs.
Well, if you're defining it as fulfilling the win condition, like you talked about in the video.
No. Solo ultimate as well. I think Diva is the best solo ultimate.
Okay.
In GOATs.
Right. So
because there's no efficient counterplay to it.
Right. It's either going to completely bust Ryan's shield. It's going to force him into an awkward position. It might force a split. It might force an ultimate from the enemy team. It's going to definitely force Zarya bubbles. So
if you Diva Bomb behind the Rhine,
Mhm.
so far that he cannot walk backwards,
Mhm.
but you don't place it so far forward that the Sen can walk forward for it.
Mhm.
They split. If they split, you speed on someone. It's called a bomb and int play.
Okay.
So I call it an int play because you int. That's what you do. You intentionally feed into the enemy Rhine by just killing him with everyone running at him.
Right.
He cannot gain support because there's a Diva Bomb on top of him.
Yeah.
If anyone goes to help him, they're dead.
Right. Okay. Fascinating. So
yeah.
Ultimately, Zen chasing Diva Bomb, not worth it. Kind of went off at a little bit of a rabbit trail there, but definitely not worth it with what happens here.
Yeah. No, you focus Rhine. Always focus Rhine.
Okay. Alrighty. I guess we continue. Let's see.
It's a really good Discord.
Yeah, and right there, and he tosses Discord too. So. Yeah.
But he just threw the whole fight. They won the fight here. They win the fight.
I'm gonna actually pause because I just now noticed this. I'm a little bit blind. This Discord's on Diva. Now he's not dropping shield. It's just now placed on Reinhardt. Right? And then he changes it.
Yeah, no, the Rhine would have died if he didn't do that.
Oof, that is unfortunate. Okay.
If you can discard the Rhine, you discard the Rhine and the Rhine dies.
Right. And just so chat can understand really quick, discarding Diva outside of, not fulfilling the win condition, Diva has an escape cooldown. Rhine does not. So if Rhine
Diva will not kill you.
Yeah, Diva will not kill you. So but also Diva can, if Diva goes, "Oh, I'm taking a lot of damage. I'm going to use Matrix or I'm going to fly away." Rhine cannot. So it's not just about not filling the win condition, it's about taking what target that you can realistically finish off. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding of it. Like,
well, kind of, yeah, but also that if you kill Rhine, you win the fight.
Right. Right. Fundamentally as well. Okay. So both guys kind of, I don't know if this is obviously shield recharge, but okay.
So right here.
Yeah.
Really good positioning from Seoul Dynasty in this fight early on.
Okay.
This is close to per. I would like to see Munchkin slightly further up, but other than that is yeah.
Okay, so Munchkin is flanking here. Jaehong has a clear sightline. Brig is hugging here. I don't know where Lucio is. I don't know if Lucio followed Diva up again.
Yeah, he is. He's up on high.
Okay, so Diva is positioning here. Diva. In this situation, because Charge has kind of aligned themselves in this position, do you think matrixing from high ground will do just as good as matrixing from low ground?
Well, you cannot block. You cannot block the bash anymore, and you cannot stand in front of the Rhine to save him if he gets bashed.
Okay.
So you lose the whole factor of using your HP as resources, Diva.
Okay.
Diva's tanky. She's really tanky.
Yes.
You don't want to kill the Diva because you want to kill the Rhine. So if you bash the Rhine and the Diva flies in front of your Rhine, you basically have to use your own bubble while bashing, because if you don't, your Rhine will get booped away by the Diva.
Right.
Right? Because he's using it boosters.
Right.
The Brig, who's inside, will also get booped away, cannot deal damage. Diva will be shooting into a Diva. Zarya will be shooting into a Diva. The Rhine takes no damage, and you do not force bubble.
Right. And the Diva can simply boost her in and just boost right back out, or boost her in and boost her back out. Like, she has options, and she could be matrixing the entire time as well.
And she should be doing that while being next to the Rhine, because if she does that, shorter time until she gets there, and she needs a worse reaction time.
So
it's more forgiving.
So this position it's going to be harder for her to eat the combo because of her distance between herself and the Reinhardt. So that being said, do you still like this position? Do you wish she was more?
Okay, so right now they've lost the position. If you go back like 1 second, they have the position and then they give it up.
Yes. Okay.
If you look at where the Rhine is, right here.
Yes.
Look at how far back Hong can play compared to Rice. Rice is playing next to the Brig and the Diva. if the Dia was in the low ground, look at the HP as well of Ryo. If they just push Ryo here, the big issue though is that the first Munchkin uses bubble onto Marb way too early. Like he's holding shield still, and
again, let me just do this too. Was the bubble used to cleanse Discord? It looks like
no, it wasn't.
At least
was
it. Ooh, I don't know. It looks close. No, it was not. So it was not used to cleanse Discord.
It was used to relieve pressure. So here they should just be able to heal up Rio and then go with their own bubble, but they use bubble too early as well.
Also worth noting, like this is the Zen is discorded here. Is there ever a situation in which maybe Jaehong sees this? You know, they have the positioning here with D.Va. Jaehong gets a discord as D.Va all-ins as Zenyatta. Would that ever be considered a play? Or?
No, it shouldn't be, because then the Rhine should die.
Okay.
And then you trade the Sen for the Rhine, and then sure, you have a Sen in Discord. But if they're all behind shield and you don't have a shield, what good is it gonna do?
Right. Okay.
What Hung could do is he could flank. Okay. He could flank with the right. I'm just gonna take control.
Yep.
He could flank up through here because they have control, because they have D.Va here, and then right click the Sen, and then have your tank play super defensive.
Okay. So
you can do that, or you can go in a wide flank this way, or whatever.
Kind of like the Zarya.
Right for this phase. Yeah.
Okay.
And then just go for right click onto the enemy Sen. You can do that and just look for random picks in the beginning of fights.
Okay, two things.
The issue here, it's too late. It's too late.
It is too late. That's what I was going to say. So you need to communicate that, but you'd also, at this point, you couldn't play defensively. They're already on top of you. So it would have to be before.
Forced to fight here. You need to hold this line. You cannot let them like walk for free around this corner, because then their Sen has a good position. As long as you hold them like on this side of the corner or this side of the line. Their Sen have a worse position than your Sen. This Sen has a good position.
So I have a question. Besides the obvious, opportunity of spam damage, or is that all? Is that the only reason why Ryas is a superior damage, inferior position? Excuse me, because he is closer and more likely to take spam from Zarya right clicks or fire strikes. Because they have the same sight line. It's just that Jaehong is further away. So
if Seoul Dynasty decides we need to give up space because we are down discard advantage, bubble advantage, pass advantage, they can back off a little bit, and Hong can back off equally, and they will still have the same positioning, just on point.
Okay.
If this happens to Guangzhou, they back off a bit. The Sen has to go past this corner, no longer has sightline onto the Rhine.
Oh, so it's about
still have a sightline.
Okay, so it's about if either team had to disengage, Jaehong would still have sightlines, Rise would not.
Yes.
That makes sense.
So it's options, right? This team can only go forward, and this team can choose to go forward or backwards, all as they want.
Perfect. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Okay, I guess we see how this plays out. Like, do you have any predictions for, like, based off of? We'll give you a little bit longer.
So,
well, that kind of killed it right there. Down the Lucio. I wonder what's gonna happen now.
What I was gonna say is that Seoul Dynasty should win just because they are the defending team. And if you look at the ult charges, like, the fight should go long. Which patch was this played on?
I believe this was the shield bash patch, so I don't remember exactly the number for that, but I believe you can still shield bash through shield.
Okay, so you can still shield bash through shield.
I believe
so. Okay, so in theory, Seoul Dynasty has the advantage because they're not being punished for using bubble early. Rio is getting his bubble onto him at the same time, almost, as Mark gets his bubble from Munchkin. I mean, there's no bubble advantage. Also, there's no discrete range for either team, which means they're equal. And then you just go off HP bars and ultimates, which means that Seoul Dynasty has more HP.
Right. So, like, for a fundamental, somebody, a noob like me to go, can go, I wonder who's going to win the fight. Let's look at this, add that up, compared to this, and ignoring Char. But, Hot Buzz, like, half health. Rio's taking a lot more damage than Marvel has. So
all important cooldowns is already used. So now it's just the team with more HP should int into the enemy.
Right, especially when you're talking about fights where you don't have a main support and you're relying off of cooldowns. Like, it is not an easy task to heal up this amount of damage quickly.
What's really important to know here as well is that Guangzhou only has one choice right now. They need to run in and hope to kill everything.
Okay.
They need to just explode on the enemy Rhine. If they're able to one-shot the enemy Rhine here before Seoul is able to react, they can still win this fight.
Right.
The only way they win is by hard inting into them.
John Galt, talked about this when the show match between NYXL and I'm forgetting the other team they played. but there was at one point where Nixel lost a member, and mono for Nixel like just went for this YOLO charge. And John talked about like how the fight's probably lost here. The only thing that could possibly win Nixel that match is if for a crazy aggro Rhine kill. And so that was exactly what they went for. It's like, hey, you know what? It's probably not going to happen, but it's our only shot of winning, so we're going to go for it. It didn't end up working out, but it was interesting.
No, but so it's the opposite of playing a dive. If you're in a dive and you're one man up, you want to play really fast. You want to go and kill the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're one man down, you want to play slow, you want to wait for them to come back, you're looking for a pick. But in Ghost, it's the opposite. If you're one man down, you're lacking something.
Right.
Oh, you don't have Sen, you don't have damage to shield, and you don't have Discord. The enemy team will slowly win the fight if they just stand still and hold shield.
Now, how much...
Sorry, there is no problem.
Sorry to interrupt, but how much of that do you think is revolving around the mechanical side? Because playing fast in a 6v5 with dive is going, hey, we have a tactical advantage. So I don't want to give their Tracer or Widow or Pharah, or depending on what dive you're playing, an advantage, an opportunity to make some crazy play. We're going to remove that by just all-inning. Whereas with Goats, that's not really a factor. It's not so much about the mechanics as much. It's more about the strategic team play. So you're like, you are not concerned about anybody on, let's say, if you're Dynasty here, there's really nobody on Team Red side that can pop off per se and like land a bunch of headshots or whatever.
Well, Sen can always pop off. Like Sen and Zarya can always pop off.
Okay.
There's always the risk of that happening. Like I've seen a Sen kill 6 people. In fights.
Okay.
Yeah, it happens.
That's fair.
Suddenly he just clicks all the heads.
That's fair.
But that's why it's important to play slow. Mm-hmm. Because playing slow with tanks means you're not giving them the opportunity because you're not doing mistakes. If your Rhine is holding shield and his shield is 1000 HP, why should you drop shield even if you're one man up?
Right.
Because if you drop it, he might die. If you keep it up, he's never gonna die.
Right.
And your team is never gonna die, and you just survive forever.
Right. Also, one thing, I think I know the answer to this. We've got Chara here. The charges Lucio. He looks to be contesting high ground here. He basically gets 2v1'd, and he stays in the engagement. See, he looks to go for a boop. I don't know if he just eats a lot of headshots. Correct me if I'm wrong. Terrible mistake.
Well. You can say there's a mistake from him, but in Ghost, there's always two sides to a mistake. It's a team mistake and it's a personal mistake.
Okay.
The Lucio being here and taking the fight is a bad idea if the team doesn't engage.
Okay.
If your team engages while the Lucio's up here, it's not a bad play.
Right.
But then it's a team mistake. So there's a personal mistake of going there, and there's a team mistake of not engaging, because when Lucio's there, he's 1v2, which means they are 5v4 on the ground.
Right.
If they just run in here, they should have an advantage.
And I'm gonna flaunt my little bit of vocabulary here, but they're also with the carry advantage because they're taking a 5v4 with both their Reinhardt and their Zarya not being distracted. So they're in key heroes of the composition are being basically not even dealt with right now. So would you anticipate, if you were coaching Charge here, would you chastise Chara? Obviously, but would you talk about it as being a comm problem that Chara was not communicating?
I took this is a team problem. This is a team decision mistake.
Okay.
Because this might be a plan, like it might be a decision that we do this. Then the decision should be Chara goes top, he takes attention from those because we know they're going to contest it, and then our team engages. If that's the plan, then it's an execution mistake.
Okay.
The team doesn't engage properly onto the Reinhardt, because their team is not in position. There's a ton of like small things,
right?
But in Goats, there's always multiple things that's wrong, right? There's no personal mistakes in Goats, because every play that you do, no matter how stupid, enables something else.
That's actually really well put. That is really well put.
If you hard flank and go behind them, they will need to turn to kill you. If your team hard engages and they commit more resources to you than you are, then you have an advantage somewhere else, and you just need to punish that.
Okay.
Like doing stupid things that they don't know how to react to, like Charis. This is obviously like really bad as a solo play.
Right.
So it makes no sense, but it makes sense by dragging resources away from the main fight.
Right. All right. So elite strategy for those watching chat. If you're playing Goats, play Lucio, D, anything that you can flank on, just run into the enemy teams screaming a battle cry, and then flame your teammates for not pushing them when your team capitalizes. I got you, man. You can't back out anymore. I've locked it in. Solheim's elite advice. No, okay, but that is a really good way of taking that, especially as a coach, because as a coach, I know that targeting individuals, whether it's in VOD review or discussion afterwards, that's not really what you want to do. You never want to make a player feel like, you know, we lost this fight because it was your fault. You know, it is a. It's not a.
If you're playing Widowmaker and she misses 10 shots in a row,
right? Which is why.
It's different.
Well, hey, you're EU. Yeah. You guys don't play Widowmakers, so we don't have to worry about that.
Well, hey.
But anyway, that is a really good way of saying, like, you know, listen. It's easy as like at first time just go, oh, Lucio fed and that's why we lost. But it's like, as you said, every play, especially with GOATs, opens up an opportunity. And so it's up to the team as a whole to capitalize off of that opportunity with what advantage and what disadvantage. Like where the fight boils down to is like you said, it's a 5v4 here. So ultimately, this is not just Lucio making a poor play. This is also Charge not capitalizing on what Dynasty does to counter that poor play. But that is really interesting. Yeah. That is really interesting. So Chara, unfortunately, dies here. And I really like your one man down. I used to play a lot of Rhine. My first reaction here would be to drop my shield and start swinging in. But like you said, the only way we could, Dynasty loses this fight is if, Charge goes crazy and kills everybody. But if Marvel doesn't drop his shield, that's not going to happen. So Marvel's playing this very safe and saying, there is no way that we're going to lose this fight. I'm just going to let the rest of my team kill you all. So,
and let's look at it also. Which advantage do you have by killing them quickly? And which advantage do you get for killing them slow? Killing them more quickly is that then you can just switch that up for next one. There's no real advantage of killing them quickly. Killing them slowly drags more time. It allows them to heal, giving you more ult charge.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no downside to killing them slowly because you're standing behind shield and they're not allowed to build ult charge.
And this is because you're on defense. So the more time you can burn off the clock, the longer you can stagger, the better it is. Okay, perfect. So we are going forward. That's a NA charge, but it doesn't really matter. I don't think he was really trying to pin. Okay, so let's see what we go here. Anything that you see,
like you use an NA charge.
What? Yeah. Listen, a little deprecatory humor. Slap myself in the face a little bit. NA feels bad, man. Really quick, in terms of ultimate charge here, it's obviously in Dynasty's favor, but anything that stands out, what would you look for from Dynasty in this next play of sorts?
Okay, so I just want to go back to the flanking Zarya from Munchkin.
Yes.
And one part.
Yes.
Look at the ult difference in Happy and Munchkin. The main part of ult charge is the accumulated right here. This is where the advantage happens.
Okay.
Because he's taking people for free and no one can punish him for
Shield is here. Munchkin is here.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is where he gains an advantage. Because they have already effectively won the fight by having superior positioning.
Yes.
Because their Sen is not going to rotate out of Rhine LOS.
Mm-hmm. Because
they're being forced back.
Right. So Jaehong still has line of sight here, and then Munchkin can just capitalize off this angle outside of the shield.
And he's outside of the shield shielding people, but for the Sen, once the Seoul Dynasty main tank moves up, the Star is going to be behind the shield for the Sen, but not for the rest.
Okay.
So
one question. So assume because it kind of looks like Happy makes the same decision, just a little bit slower. Because you can see Beam here. Assuming that Chara doesn't die here. And do you? I like this. We've got a cool little X going on here because Munchkin's zapping this way. Happy's zapping this way. Do you ever see two Zaryas taking the same angle and turning attention to each other, or do they mostly focus on the Rhine, Diva, backline? How does that interaction work out?
So again, it's a matter of what did the team normally want to focus on.
Right.
Who do you want to kill?
Right.
If you think you're going to have a really long fight, you're going to play for grab, and that's your plan, then you might take the mirror match because you don't want to die as a Zarya.
Yes.
Or you might move back to your Rhine giving up the space, which you don't really want to do.
Right.
So if you want to kill the Rhine, then you're not going to focus that, and you're going to rotate back around. But if you want to play on grab, you will try to stop the Zarya from building the ult charge.
Okay.
The thing with this map is that the flank is not possible to be wide enough. What you can do is that I believe you can right-click your way up on Cafe from attacking position, which is the position they can't punish because of the positioning. But I'm not sure how good of an idea that is. I haven't theory crafted it.
Okay, so you're saying basically theoretically you could right-click up into Cafe up here and use that free angle, kind of like how you were saying Soul could have been playing, I guess, Juice. That's a strange call, and be zapping this way. So kind of like a similar angle. But both at this time in the game would probably be a mistake. I mean, maybe less for Cafe because he's kind of already there. because, like we talked about with the Ryuje Hong flank, it would basically mean a 5v6 for a period of time and give the enemy team an opportunity to punish that disadvantage.
Yeah. Like, setups need to be done early before the fight, before the Rhine meets, because once the Rhine meet, it's about killing the Rhine. It's not about killing anyone else.
Okay.
And that's like NA has in the beginning of the season. We saw Rhine just running in and swinging.
Yes.
In Europe last season, we saw Rhine just running in and swinging. We saw that early in both. NA towards the end of the season, and EU for this entire season, the end of last.
Yeah.
When the Rhine meets, it's like everything else is forgotten. It's just both teams have one target and one target only. And if you trade your Zarya for their Rhine, you win the fight.
Question really quick. Do you ever see people actively targeting a Brig? I understand that Brigs sometimes will overextend with Shield Bash, they'll make an error, and then they're obviously easily punishable. But is there ever a win condition that you would target a Brig over a Rhine?
So again, this is patch dependent to some extent.
Okay.
On 129, if they have Bash+Shatter, and you know they have Bash+Shatter, your Brig contesting their Brig and using the Bash onto the Brig instead of the Rhine. Yeah.
Okay, so for those in chat, 1.29 was really the previous patch where you could shield Bash shields and stun the target through the shield. So in the old patch, there was definitely a reason to target Brig, at least with your own shield Bash. Okay.
Yeah.
No, really quick. Why was that? Because once the enemy Brig shield bashes, the play is already off.
So it's really easy to see when she's going for it.
Okay.
So you just do it just before.
Okay.
Because most teams do a countdown, and it's usually a slow countdown. It's like we're gonna shield bash in 3, 2, 1, and then on 1 the Rhine starts shattering, and then the end of 1 the Brig bashes.
Okay, so you kind of like look to cancel or basically just stop that play from ever occurring, not to counter it afterwards because you're already shattered. Okay.
Yeah. You can also just discord the Brig if you're able to, and then if she goes for the bash, you get one shot and you trade effectively. So then you should both bubble from Zarya to block the shatter. So Zarya plays close to the Rhine, bubble him and herself when she gets bashed. I mean, the Brig dies from the Sen and the Brig, and the bash gets blocked by the Zarya and the Rhine.
Right. So we saw that with South Korea, especially on, what was it, King's Row in the Overwatch World Cup. It felt like every time, I don't even remember who was the main tank for South Korea. Was it Miro? No, it wasn't Miro. It was Mono. I can't remember. But regardless, it felt like every time that the enemy team got a successful Bash+Shatter play off, the Zarya was blocking it. Like every single time. So preparing for that. One thing I do want to say though is like connecting those 2 points. When you anticipate the enemy Rhine to have Shatter or a Bash+Shatter play, does the Zarya avoid taking these off angles in hopes of blocking the Shatter? Or does she continue to or does she continue to take that angle to punish? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you have the opportunity to block if you're hugging. So, what kind of decision making goes into that? Like,
So again, it comes down to which play do you want to stop? Because they're looking to Bash+Shatter, their Zarya shouldn't flank.
Okay. So if they are looking to Bash+Shatter, their Zarya will usually not flank because it means that you want to be able to burn that Rhine or whatever's on the ground. Okay.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily just that, because it's a very quick play to set up, and flanking with Zarya takes a lot of time. So it's just time wasted.
Right. Okay.
And so that wouldn't really happen in the first place. And the second thing is, you can let the bash go through. You can try to block it with either the Brig Shield or the Solar Bubble. An effective way of blocking it. This might sound. If you think you know about when they're going to do it, your Rhine charges and you bubble him.
Oh no, that sounds.
Then you bash, and then you bash the enemy Brig.
That's actually pretty cool.
Which is a counterplay you can do into Bash+Shatter.
Okay, excellent. One more thing. I promise. Last question of that topic. If your Zarya muffs up and uses personal bubble, okay. Let's say your Zarya's position here uses personal bubble. You're no longer going to be able to block Shatter consistently with your own body. Do you then rotate for the angle? So you're like, I can't block it necessarily with my personal anymore. So now I'm going to look for either projected block or just to avoid the Shatter altogether. What do you think?
I think if you fuck up the bubble, you fuck up the bubble.
Yeah. Okay.
That means the plan is not communicated, or you do not understand the plan.
Right. Okay.
So that is either a mistake from the coach on being able to explain it.
Okay.
or it's a mistake from you not able to understand it.
Okay, so that's not something that you can just easily solve. That's such a big error.
No,
That's such a
no,
big
no.
error that it's like that
Like
just kills the play.
one bubble wrong. Like bubbles, as long as they're planned, you know how to use them.
Yes.
It's very easy to use. But one bubble used wrong loses the fight, because bubble advantage is the biggest advantage you can have.
Over Bash.
Yeah.
Especially
bubble is the biggest advantage.
Especially with a recent patch, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Both teams in this fight fuck up bubble advantage 3 times. One of them loses it, and one of them gives it away.
Oh my. Okay.
And it's the biggest difference that I see in NA and EU is the bubble usage. NA uses bubble way earlier. Korea is slightly better, and EU uses the latest. However, in NA and Korea, main tanks never get one shot, but in EU they do.
Okay. So do you think that comes down to coordination or Discord placement?
I think that comes down to experience. I think the fact that in Europe, the right click from Sen into Bash is much more used. It's not used in NA. I haven't seen it being used effectively in NA yet.
Because if right click into Bash, that's just significantly more damage too fast. It's like
it's just a straight one shot. You one shot the right.
Yeah.
He's dead.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah. And that is even without Discord, correct? So you don't necessarily need Discord. So instead of bashing to set up Discord, which would then be cleansed by bubble, you are bashing just a one shot. Like it is, you're done. Like that's it. So okay.
I'm just quickly checking the numbers on it, and it is
so
46 times 5 times 2.
Yeah, so it's 92 times 5, 460 damage.
Yeah.
So
and then you add the Brig combo with Bash, melee, shift, and a Rhine swing, and whatever else.
Right. Okay. Lucio, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, it's a straight up one shot into the Rhine.
Fascinating. Okay.
Because only the first shot is blocked by armor.
Now, I hate to be that guy, but is it theoretically like wouldn't you have your Zarya prepped with projected, or is that what you're saying? You're like anticipating that play and bubbling because especially with the right click change, it takes a little bit more time for all of those orbs to hit. So you just as an EU Zarya, coaching an EU Zarya, are you saying like you really need to be watching for this Bash? Because
the thing is, it's like rolling a dice. It's if they go for the play with the right click, and you bubble it, then the Discord's not never gonna hit, and you never need to cleanse the Discord in the first place.
But wouldn't it one shot the Rhine without the bubble? Or am I misunderstanding?
Yeah. So if you use the bubble, the Rhine would die. But if they went for the Discord instead, you would potentially not lose the bubble advantage, because you can bubble later.
Okay, so it's basically
if you bubble,
it's a gamble of like, if this is the right click play, excuse me, I need to bubble preemptively. But if it's not and I bubble early, I'm not even going to be cleansing Discord. I'm going to be bubbling too early, which is going to give them an advantage immediately afterwards.
Because their rank can run into your run with a bubble.
Right. Okay.
And you would never have a chance to set up the Bash even.
Okay. Right. So it's simply looking for Bash isn't always good enough when it comes to projected. You have to try and anticipate what play it is, because if it's a right-click play, you want to bubble quickly. If it's just a Discord play, you do not want to be bubbling quickly. Because otherwise you're putting your Rhine at the disadvantage leading later into the fight. Okay, exactly. That makes perfect sense. Okay. Did you talk all of that you wanted to about, I know you had a couple thoughts on Munchkin. Did we kind of already touch on those, or did you want to?
Well, I think that Munchkin right here, because they are now starting to force Guangzhou back. He's holding a good angle. He is choosing the right thing.
By the way, if you want to take control of the mouse, go right ahead.
No, it's nothing special. It's just the position he's holding right now is that they know the fight is won, because they're playing slow, they're playing safe, they're farming ults, and they're farming the ultimates they want. And those two ultimates is the Sun ult, because it's the strongest of the two defensive ults, objectively speaking. It's also the one you're going to have the most of during the game. And you can most consistently farm. And it's the grab, which is the best way to, if Guangzhou was somehow able to farm like some resources you didn't expect, grab will usually just beat them, or it will allow you to build ultimates. So it's the two most efficient ways to have very safe setups, who's going to allow you to snowball. Is building trans and building grab. So the target switch from Munchkin is really, really good here after they win the fight, because there's no way they're going to be able to lose, because Guangzhou is not inting into the enemy team once you lose a player. The back off
I do want to notice, though, it's interesting that watch Munchkin change targets here quickly. So Bubble, he instantly, like, he doesn't waste any time. The second projected is placed on Rhine, he doesn't even bother to burn through the projected. He instantly turns his focus to the two tanks at the bottom. And
that's because they have advantage, right?
Right.
That their Rhine is high HP. Bubbles are used at the same target at the same time. And if he's able to deny the Zarya from going in on the Rhine, and because you don't have Lucio, their Rhine can back off quicker.
Right.
They're never going to be able to collapse onto the Rhine, and he can just focus down whoever was a real threat. Because the Rhine is not a threat unless they have a Lucio.
Right, and maybe I'm overthinking this as well, but I want to notice, also notice what Munchkin does with his positioning once he changes targets. So he is here. Look at where he positions himself forward and pops personal. This feels like he's body blocking for his Rhine as well. Am I like, knowing that he's kind of, they've traded bubbles, damage resources is here. He's not only burning these guys, I feel like he's also attempting to body block from whatever damage they might capitalize off of, whether it's the Zarya or the D.Va. Do you agree, or am I just overthinking this?
I think you might be overthinking. I think he's just greedy.
Okay.
I think he wants the ult.
Okay.
I just think he wants the energy and he wants to kill things.
Okay. So they, just Munchkin just burns everybody, so. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So the ult advantage of Munchkin is where it should be. Brig is usually always going to be around the same thing, because Brig is one of the last to die.
Yep.
He's not a high priority target usually.
Really?
No, Brig is not a high priority. After she uses a Bash, is useless.
Huh. Okay. All right.
Like, she's useful every 6 seconds. Ryan is always useful, and Zarya is always useful. And is always useful.
How does this change with the Brig changes? I know there's been people experimenting with triple support without Brig, but go ahead.
I read some stats on it, and on average, you heal. If you say an average game, a Brig heals 10k HP. On the new patch, she would heal 110 to 130, 11 to 13,000 HP. Instead in the same game, because of the healing increase, because healing lasts longer, which means that in total, if you hit one hit and then both teams back off, one take, and you maximize rally heal. Is it rally? What's her healing called? Inspire?
Yeah, it's Inspire. Inspire's the
healing. Yeah. The healing is increased by up to 20%.
Okay.
So it goes from 10 to a potential 120 if you maximize each tick.
Okay.
Because the healing, as it's not that much, it's 0.6 more per second, but it lasts for 2 seconds longer. Which is the big thing. But also the fact that you cannot bash through shield makes fight last longer. So on average, you have 20 to 30% more rallies per game.
Do you think there are situations in GOATs where their Inspire would be kind of wearing off, or wouldn't Inspire already have a high uptime with GOATs pre-patch, or are you just saying because the fights last longer, the healing output is increased and the chance of farming up a rally is better? So it's not necessarily the fact that she does more healing, it's the fact that the fights are lasting longer, allowing her to do more healing.
I'm saying it's both.
Okay.
And like rallies are up all the time, but also if someone moves out of the range, like let's say the Zarya is flanking, she might move out of the range of the rally of the Inspire, but she's still gonna receive healing because the rally lasts for an eternity now. It lasts forever.
Oh, okay. So it continues to tick.
It's the same idea as a Lucio ult in the dive.
Oh, okay.
Lucio ult the blade instead of chancing it, because you don't need to be next to the trance for it to work.
Right, that's right, because I'm forgetting the refresh. It's like once you apply Inspire on somebody, they have to be within a certain...
So, no, it's basically just that even if you're not inside of the Inspire range, you can still get healing. But also the fact that fight lasts longer, but it's a combination of both. And it's really hard to separate which comes from increased time and which comes from increased fight length. Because increased fight length comes from the fact that you can flank more. The win condition is building ultimates. The win condition is Zarya flanking more than before. It's all these minor things, which is a result of not being able to burst the Rhine with a bash anymore.
Right.
Because you need to read the shield.
So it is like we could go more in depth in that, but it is more about learning how to maximize your ult charge time and utilizing flanks more. Is this like really after this one point?
You use angle, like I've been coaching a team in NA Tier 3 called Chicken Contendies.
I know the
for a
team.
bit.
One of my buddies was
Um,
going to coach for you guys, but unfortunately was not able to commit the time. Ham sandwich. So
oh yeah.
so
Nice.
anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was coaching them from 1 to 9. I haven't coached them in a while now. And I was trying to teach them the Zarya flank because they're playing a lot around their Zarya player, who's a really good Zarya player for the tier, I think. And he is someone they like to focus their play around.
Okay.
And with this new patch, as far as I've heard, their win rates has gone up because their playstyle is stronger now.
Right.
Because they're relying on building grabs, they're relying on just throwing grabs in, and they're relying on Zarya dealing damage. And they're not relying on the Ryan getting one shot. He's just playing very defensive.
Right.
He's playing very like Europe contenders.
I know I want to backpedal this just a little bit, even though it's old patch, because I kind of asked this question, but I want a more specific answer if you can give it. Like you said, obviously this patch favors that team because they have the stronger Zarya player. Before then, was it just primarily the coordination of teams that made them better? Was it the communication? Like, what made a team better at one-shotting a Reinhardt as opposed to the other team? Like, was it just communication and coordination? Was it any, like, I don't know. Like, do you mind expanding on that a little bit?
It's basically the team with the better Zarya. Like this will sound stupid, but the only role you need a mechanically good player in to play GOATs at the high level, tier 2 level, is Zarya. You need a good Zarya mechanically and a really smart guy.
So my question is,
if you have those two things, you will win.
So how did that change from pre-patch to post-patch? Because Zarya is now even more of a carry. So what was taking up the slack for Zarya having less impact with her grab farming capabilities before patch?
It was Ryan's having too big egos and wanting to carry.
Okay.
It was Ryan wanting to swing. It was Ryan wanting to shatter. It was Ryan wanting to build everything around them. I'm the shot caller. I decide what we do. I want to carry.
So the better Ryan, the more communicative Ryan, maybe
would usually, well, no.
Happy New Year.
The more defensive Ryan would usually win, but both teams had big ego Ryan who wanted to carry.
Okay.
Who didn't say, "I'm going to sit in this corner and stay alive for long enough for my team to kill everyone."
Okay.
Because I'm the main target. If they kill me, we lose the fight. But I don't need to kill anything. I just need to stay alive.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Because when I said carry in the video, I meant it more as if this person dies, you lose because he's carrying the fight by having a shield and being alive.
Right. So it's not carrying it with his hammer necessarily.
No. It's carrying with his shield, it's carrying with his utility, it's carrying with the space he creates. It is not allowing them to collapse onto you. He's just basically stopping them from walking into you.
I have one more question. So you said the Zarya is a better carry in terms of maybe mechanics post-patch. Pre-patch, it feels like Zarya bubbles were a lot more important during the...
Well, I would say Zarya bubbles is just as important.
Just as?
Because it allows your Ryan to... Yeah, it still serves the same purpose. Bubble advantage is still as good.
Right, I'm saying...
You always want to bubble last in the fight.
Maybe in terms of like the projected timing, would you say is the team with the better... significantly better Zarya bubble management would win more often than after the shield bash change because they would have the opportunity of stymieing those Bash+Shatter plays, the burst Ryan plays. Being better with your projected was more important then, or would you say it is exactly about the same? Because obviously a bubble has purpose in both, but pre-patch where you could get bashed and killed, I feels like projected would be more important to be good at in terms of timing.
So it's less about being good at projected right now because the patch is so new. The dynamics of GOATs have changed so dramatically that it's more about trying to understand it's not the same.
Okay.
Than to be really mechanically good and doing the best. Because we don't know what's the best yet. We haven't had professional play on this patch yet.
So projected
contenders is being played on 130 of the playoffs, and NA is still on 129 even. So we have no clue how high tier teams are going to do this because no high tier teams are scrimming on that patch.
Right. So so projected might be even more important. We just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just not sure.
Okay.
I think it's going to be even more important to use it second.
Okay.
Or bait the bubble, to then be the third bubble to go in. So it's going to be even more about
I'm
using bubbles.
I'm biting my tongue.
For space.
I'm biting my tongue. I wanted you to clarify, like go in depth in that point, but I don't know. Well, maybe we'll go more in a little bit later.
Well, let's be honest. We've been here for almost an hour. 42 seconds.
I was gonna, put this up as like
seconds.
a, Overwatch League analysis, but no, man. We're gonna put this as a
this is GOATs analysis.
in-depth GOATs analysis. But to be fair, we're just giving what they gave us. So this is what's good, and this is what was played. So we're gonna analyze what was played.
I just want to talk a bit more about one thing with GOATs.
Please.
People who expect high level content in GOATs, you're not gonna get it. GOATs is the same always. Mm-hmm. There is very little variation, and it's about perfecting the small things.
Okay.
It's not about doing big, fancy new things. So I created my series on YouTube for the idea that, hey, I'm gonna make 1 or 2 videos a week of different fights to do different things, where I can focus on different aspects. Mm-hmm. And then when I came to week 2, I'm like, this is the same shit all over again.
Man. Well, listen, there are people out there that are, I don't know what would the term be. They hate themselves enough to where they'll be happy to watch the same stuff over and over again, as long as it's coming from a really good coach's perspective. So,
well, it's I get too bored of making it.
No, so. that is fair. that I can agree with. When
it is because my issue is that I never do anything scripted. My videos are never scripted. Mm-hmm. It's like on top of my head, whatever I want to say at the time of making them.
Mm-hmm. That's dangerous.
And yeah, it is dangerous. That's just how I work with everything.
Yeah. All right.
Like yeah. And it's the way that creates the most interactive content, I feel. And the issue is that with GOATs, I really like doing some super advanced sneaky things like in strategy and stuff. Mm-hmm. I have a ton of cool strategy. I can send you some stuff afterwards.
Please. No, chat's not allowed to learn anything about it. It's all secret.
Oh no. This is super secret, super cheesy GOAT strats.
Oh, sweet. You listen. Your check's in the mail. It'll be there in like a week. 500 US American dollars.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's so cheesy and so hard to pull off that it never got pulled off, because why don't you just play GOATs?
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. Really quick. I wanted to say hello to Haman. Main event. Good to see you, buddy. And Dragonfly, thank you for the 2-month sub. Happy New Year, Coach. Happy New Year to you as well. Sorry. Continue.
Yes. And the issue with GOATs is not necessarily that it's uncounterable. It is that it demands so much effort to counter it, it's not worth it. Mm-hmm. Because you can become so good on one map. You can counter GOATs in this one map really, really well, while the other team loses to you on that map and win every single other map because they know how to play GOATs. And yeah, it's... But on the new patch, I think it's more like Bastion. Bastion is looking really promising.
Oh no! Please.
Symmetric GOATs looking really promising.
No.
So I saw some statistics on it made by a European coach. Mm-hmm. Bastion's efficient range has increased by 50% on the new patch.
Oh jeez, I feel I'm maybe in the minority here, but I think Bastion does not belong in Overwatch. I do not.
Oh, I think he does. I think he really does, because he forces people to be creative.
That is true.
Even though he as a character, I don't think he fits. I don't think Brig fits either. But
yeah,
the thing that these characters do, hopefully in the future, at least for Brig as well, is that it forces people to be creative. You cannot just do the same thing over and over, because someone will think of something new. Mm-hmm. And then it's the same with Orisa defense. Orisa defense was so good until people found different routes to take or how to set up a dive against.
Right.
It forces people to adapt. Right. And simple things like GOATs will eventually be a good thing for the game, I think. And the reason I think that is it's going to force us to think outside the box eventually.
Yeah.
Well, because at some point, someone's going to be, hey, we can just do this. And it's a super simple thing that no one thought about before.
Yeah, just as long as it's not Symmetra Bastion.
Symmetric GOATs is really good right now.
Really? I know it's used in Hanamura a lot, but I have always thought of it. I mean, when you're playing Symmetra,
on Hanamura it's a cheese.
It is a cheese in Hanamura.
But on some maps, the way you used to play dive is that you place Lucio on payload, and then you have your team hold a choke really close to their spawn, and you just hold that for as long as possible, and then go back to payload. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't do that with GOATs because you didn't have high ground access. You couldn't get to these points. And you couldn't back off.
I know where this is leading.
Well, when you have a teleporter, it's like a really, really fast Lucio. Mm-hmm. And you can just jump up and sit on the choke, and you have 3 turrets standing above the choke. So when the Rhine walks through, it gets slowed by 900%.
Yes, I hate. We're not going to talk about that because I might break something. But yes, I am well aware of that. One thing I did want to talk about before, because I want to pick your brain really quick on ults if you have the time. Before we do that, I was watching a little bit of Contenders during my holiday break, and I was noticing that some teams were running basically protect the Doomfist. So Ryan, Zarya, triple support Doomfist. A lot of counters, right? I saw a little bit of Element Mystic running it, but I noticed the teams that would get steamrolled by this composition were the compositions who are not utilizing their diva properly, in my opinion. Whether it was Dive, specifically Goats is actually the team that I was watching was getting steamrolled by this comp, and it just looked ridiculous. It's like, Goat, what? So correct me if I'm wrong. They were staging Doomfist on high ground. It was actually this very map a lot. Staging in high ground, and he'd do the whole drop, rocket punch play or whatever. As a diva, if you are playing Goats and you see Doomfist on the enemy team, especially in Protect the Doomfist, where you have no real threat besides the other Doomfist, do you hard commit to that Doomfist to deny him that staging ground and at the very least to bait out cooldowns? What do you think?
So this is actually pretty funny because last season of Contenders, when Ghosts were starting to get played, I had a player in my team called Dan AD. Or Danad. He was number 1 Doomfist.
Okay.
He was Doomfist one trick.
Yep.
And I had him on my team in Open Division. We played Doomfist Tracer a lot.
Really? That's
weird. I had him on team in Trials, and we played Doomfist Tracer there as well. And then we had him in Contenders, and then we still played Doomfist Tracer.
Yeah.
In a lot of places. And we had this idea of playing the Goats with the Doomfist instead of the Brig, instead of the Diva, both of them. And we never got ready to try it because my Doomfist player didn't want to.
That's unfortunate.
So this comp has been played by several teams, and then it brought this strat that me and him talked about from his old team with me into Orioles in Hungary, which is the team that played this in Contenders first, who he then left for British Hurricane in the end. So yeah, no, I was one of the first advocates of Doomfist last season. I mean, I actually beat a Eagle Gaming playing Doomfist triple DPS.
Wow. Okay, that's impressive.
Last season.
That's impressive. That is very impressive.
So yeah, no, I was the first coach. I was even on Jane's stream right before Doomfist meta. Doomfist is going to become meta on this patch, and Jane was like, "No, no."
Well, listen,
you are wrong. Doomfist is bad.
Yeah, listen, I was actually discussing with an unnamed coach who I will not embarrass, but probably about almost a year ago when Brigida first came out, and we were discussing it probably a week or two after release, and I'm going, and I'm still a new scrub coach, and so I got, even a wrong clock is right twice a day. So I was like, Brig, man, this feels like she's going to be running a lot with like triple support, maybe with like the whole Slambulance, maybe. And he's like, oh, no, she'll never be run with that because they'd just be stealing ult charge away from each other. And, fast forward 3 months, and that's literally all that's being run. And now Slambulance is, now that's Goats. So we obviously with the variations, but, so I guess even the smartest minds can be wrong. But going back to what I was saying, do you think, like, you're playing Goats, the enemy team is running that Doomfist Goats that you were describing, or the Protect the Doomfist, whatever it's called. As a diva, that is your job, correct? To deny it, to make sure to displace, to contest that Doomfist, so he doesn't just drop and, one-shot your Zen, your Lucio, your Brig, whatever. I mean, you can also use your Zarya bubbles as well, but what do you think?
So on the new patch, I wouldn't be afraid of this comp because Doomfist is gone. Doomfist is dead.
Yes, correct.
His uppercut changes is too severe.
Okay.
Like the people say he's the worst, but now his uppercut is the thing he's dead for.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be afraid, but in the first place, like a very good rule for Goats, if you meet something you don't know how to deal with, you press W. And I tell this to every single team I guest coach for. If you don't know what to do, you press W.
So you're not even talking about the specifics, like just if you see the Doomfist, that's an opportunity for a quick 6v5.
You int the Rhine.
Right. Okay.
Like if you it is never wrong to int the Rhine. You're not always gonna win, but it's never wrong.
Okay.
If you have no clue what to do, it's better for you to just run in and try to kill the Rhine and hope you can kill everything else afterwards.
Yep.
So I want to start off there because that's where a lot of teams that come in and coach for the first time. Because I've done a lot of NA guest coaching in Tier 3 and a bit of Tier 2 now. For the last week of Contenders, I've been helping Kongarna a bit.
Hey, cool.
And I think that once they don't know what to do, they just stand there.
Yeah, and I did notice that, like, when they were trying to, like, kind of indecisive, it didn't, like, I guess they were trying to deny the Doomfist kill zones, but it didn't matter because the payload was still moving. And they were not taking that 6v5. They were just kind of waiting for something to happen, and nothing ever happened until the Doomfist decided to drop on them and kill them. So, okay, keep going.
Yeah, but no, that was basically like the rant or the tangent I wanted to go off on right now. And when it comes to the Doomfist in itself, I don't think it's valuable to look into it yet, and I haven't done the research on it because I don't think Doomfist is good enough on the new patch.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be able to stop the charge like he was because of the 3-second movement lock he had,
Mm-hmm.
which that is just absurd. Like 3-second movement lock on his uppercut. You couldn't like reducing that to 0.75. Yeah, you can still just charge forward. You can just press W straight through him.
Yeah.
You're gonna be up in the air for a little bit, but you can still just press W and not die.
Yep.
You armor pack whoever he is going for,
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
And then they don't have a D.Va. They can't DM the Ryan, so your Sen is just gonna demolish him.
Mm-hmm. And he can't reliably like I'm a Zen main, or was when I played. And you can't really reliably bait trance either anymore. Because
no, not at all.
It's not a like even ignoring Zarya bubble here, Zen that's quick to react is going to be able to survive his meteor strike.
Yeah, or you're just gonna get an armor pack.
Right. That true.
You don't need to armor pack the Ryan because the effective HP that it gains from that, when they don't have a D.Va, your Senate dealing enough damage and keeping him alive is more valuable, so you can just use the armor pack on him instead.
Right.
You still want to bubble your own Ryan, but yeah.
Right. Okay. Last thing, so I don't want to keep you too much longer. Looking at the screen right now, like you kind of see ults coming online. How would you anticipate, or how would you want either team to be setting up their ults? Because we don't have a whole lot for Charge, but we do have Grav, we have Rally for Didasoo. I anticipate Zumba is probably going to farm up a bomb. Jaehong, I imagine probably 15-20 seconds or even 5-10 seconds into the fight, Jexi or whatever is going to farm up barrier. How would you like to see these being used? Like what ults do you want used? What ults do you not want used? And how would you set up those ults?
I would like to focus more on Guangzhou's ult usage here.
Okay.
Than Seoul's first.
Okay.
And the reason for that is once you lose the first fight as an attacker, you have two choices. Do we build all 3 tank ults and a defensive ult to just try to roll the point, which you should have 100% win rate on fights with 3 tank ults and 1 support ult.
Okay.
You should always win those fights.
Right.
Like even if they have the same, if you know what you're doing, you should always win those fights.
Okay. That's a little bit of a paradox, but I'll let it slide.
What do you mean?
If we have 3 tank ults and 1 support ult and they do 2, we should always win.
Yeah, because the attackers should always win with those.
Okay. So the attackers should always win. Okay.
Yeah, because you have the option to set up.
Right.
Without doing anything.
Right. Okay.
If the defense want to do something first, they have to do something cheesy. They have to hide someone, or they need to just rush out from a room or something. They need to do something cheesy.
Now, why is that?
Attackers always have the option to set up first.
Okay, so the option to set up their play. Now, wouldn't the Dynasty have the advantage of setting up where, and Charge would have the timing of when? So you think the actual timing of the ults is more important than choosing where the ults are used?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Be able to do things first is better always. It's like if you EMP first, you're going to earn 50% EMP advantage.
Right.
If you grab first, you're going to earn 50% grab advantage because if you win the fight with the grab and they don't grab, they're not building ult charge and you might be 50% again. It's like using ults, like executing first is normally always best.
Okay.
You can be so that is being okay. So I'll quickly explain the different kinds of proactiveness.
Sure.
You have
go ahead.
defensive proactiveness and offensive proactiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, people only think of the latter one
right.
when they think about being proactive. We need to do something first. We need to be doing something actively, and you can be defensively proactive.
Mm-hmm.
You can make sure only the Ryan gets caught in the grab, and then are they gonna hard commit onto just a Ryan?
Mm-hmm. Now, how would you do that with goats? How would you?
Yeah, no, this is what I'm explaining now.
Okay.
Okay, so they trans the Ryan. There's no one you can charge in the grab who would instantly die.
Mm-hmm.
You can set up a play, but that requires coordination, which you don't really have because you're planning on killing him in the grab. You're not planning on, we're going to grab him, and then we're going to build a right click from Sen, and then we're going to charge right click him.
Okay.
You don't do that. Our teams don't do it. They could do that, but they don't.
Right.
So then you only have the Ryan and the trans in the grab.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you might have beaten the grab. Or you can place everyone on your team in the grab and do the opposite. That they would have to use their own defensive ult to kill us in the grab. Because that's what they normally do.
Right.
They would go into the grab and kill us. So you basically just their Ryan's going into swing, but you guys are so many people in the grab that he will just die.
Right. So he's like, oh, cool, clump targets. So then he drops his shield and then dies.
Yeah,
rats.
Yeah. And that's the opposite thing. And that's a proactive, reactive play because you're all on the same page. We are going to get grabbed. then we're going to kill whatever comes close to the grab. That is our plan.
And so that would be you would describe that as
we're holding.
you would describe that as defensive proactiveness, taking the grab with the anticipation of we're going to support ult and delete whoever gets close to us.
Yeah, and then aggressive proactive play is that we're going to hide our Zarya in this tiny room and grab the wall, and they're going to be on the other side of the wall and get sucked in. That's we are executing first if we are the aggressors, and that's hence the aggressive proactive. Or we're going to let them do something and we're going to counterplay it, and we have a counterplay ready. That is defensive proactive. It's not being reactional, but you're not reacting to it.
Okay.
You're not playing defensive, like you're not trying to react to what they're doing. You already have reacted to what you think they're doing.
Right. So you're trying to. So it takes planning. Like I played a lot of
some sort of game plan
for Americans in chat. I played a lot of baseball as a kid, and my dad always said, where do you throw the ball? I'm like, well, Dad, the play hasn't started yet. Well, he was like, well, no, you need to decide right now if the ball is hit here, if the ball is hit there, if the ball is hit there. You already need to know with the various 2 or 3 scenarios what you're going to be doing, so you're not thinking about it in the middle of the game, in the middle of the play. You already have a proactive play depending on what happens, depending on what is used. Yeah. So
then you're not going to doubt your play when you get into the game.
Correct.
I play professional handball, which is not a sport in the US, I think.
I'm familiar with the name.
I was a goalie, and I was primarily doing penalties and like one-on-ones against players. Like teams that were quicker than us were able to come alone in the goalie. I was that kind of goalie, and you just chose before you even went into the goal. Like, I'm gonna go for a save in this corner.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stand in the middle. I'm gonna be really far forward. I'm gonna be really far back.
Yep.
And that just stops you from doubting, and it creates a better execution because you're not doubting in it.
Right. It clears your mind. You're prepared for what's going to happen, so you're not surprised. Like if a loud explosion happened, right, and the goal was to try and drop to your knees and tuck your head, cover your head as fast as possible, what would be faster, you knowing it would happen and knowing what to do, or just you're out walking throughout your day and all of a sudden something happens like that? You're going to obviously be a little slow to react to that because that was not what you anticipated. So part of preparation or part of reaction is anticipation. That was probably the worst analogy I could have come up with. A loud explosion, guys. But yeah, no, it is preparation. So, okay.
Yeah, so, and now Guangzhou needs to decide, are we going to get a good time and have a good time bank and try to play from a disadvantage in this fight? Or are we just going to wait until we get an advantage and then win one fight? One of them is going to leave them with maybe go into overtime on this point, and the other one is going to leave them either losing, getting full health, or give them a timing of 1 to 2 minutes.
Right. So the overtime one would be them building up the ult bank and going, you know what, we're going to lose the next 2 minutes of fights. We know it's going to happen. So let's just farm up our ults and force them to use theirs. Whereas they can kind of gamble. I guess you could call it a gamble. I mean, you're trusting your players' abilities, but ultimately they have their players' abilities as well. So you're playing for what ults you have online and hoping you can counter or force them to waste theirs.
There are a lot of ways to win a fight when you're 6 ults to 0. Like if you're 0 ults, there are ways to win, or you wouldn't always need a defensive ult, but you always have a defensive ult. So you would need one of the 3 support ults, and that is enough to win against a 6 ult team if you set up correctly and know how to react.
I guess because you could theoretically Shatter and Diva Bomb both can basically completely whiff. If not used correctly.
Well, grab as well.
Right.
Can completely. I'm gonna explain how.
Please.
So there is a very basic idea in GOATs that if you have all 3 tank ults, you need to grab first. You always grab first, which is like something that everyone agreed on for like a month. Everyone agreed you have to grab first if you have all your ultimates because you build it quickest. It drains resources. You can combo with it. So many things you can do with it. So if you know the team has a lot of ultimates, you can basically just go, hey, they're going to grab. If we just use the support ult, so like Brig ult, and then we just hard run into their Zarya, we completely DM her and try to kill her. They are going to panic. And panic is the GOAT's worst enemy.
Yes.
If you panic in GOATs, you have lost. You just need to be calm the whole way through because, okay, they killed our Zarya. We still have ultimates. What should we do? We Diva Bomb ourselves. If we Diva Bomb ourselves, we can regroup. And we can kill whoever is close to us.
Right.
and then we can set up a shatter bash afterwards. But people don't do that. People are, oh no, they ate our grab, our whole plan is gone.
Right.
No, it's
right.
not.
Right.
Only part of it.
And you did a really good job of explaining this. I'm gonna link this video in the Discord and chat after during that goats analysis on Ilios Ruins, and how like even though they were one man down, they had ultimates in the bank, and ultimately they combined both support ults and they just wasted whatever opportunity they had. So if a play is being forced, your best tool is to remain calm and to capitalize on what strengths you have. And if they're all inning you, if they're all inning your Zarya, they're going to be really weak in some aspect. They're going to be opening themselves wide open in some aspect. It's going to be up to you guys to, whether it's through preparation or just keeping a level head, to exploit those weaknesses.
Yeah. And that is the one very important way. The other one is kiting. Kiting is very, very important in GOATs.
Okay.
And you basically use some resources to bait them to go into you, and then you kite those resources away. It's more of a thing on non-control point parts of maps, so payload mainly, or King of the Hill.
Now, why is that? Is there just less space in King of the Hill maps?
Yeah. There's this. Well, I mean, in this point control, so like first point Hollywood or Hanamura, both points, places where point pressure is too good and there's very little time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
3 ticks and you're done. Okay.
Yeah, because you cannot set again. If you're playing not King of the Hill, but you're playing Hanamura, and you have to back up from the first fight, the regroup and everything.
Yes.
You cannot set up on point again if they gain point.
Yes.
But on payload, you can just set up somewhere further along the payload route.
Okay.
And you can hold it there. So kiting resources is really, really important if your ult's down. Like you want to wait and waste as much as possible to kill you. So let's say they use a grab, they kill one person. And then you int into them to make them panic.
Yes.
That is one way of making them use ultimates, but you can also kite. If they are able to not have grab, but they have shatter and bomb and whatever, there are so many routes you can take to make them use ultimates without getting value. And you just need to be ready to, when they use ultimates, we run. We don't fight, we run. If they lose you ult, we speed back.
Okay.
If they break ult, we speed back.
Now, can you give me, this is when you are at an ultimate disadvantage.
Yes.
Okay. Fascinating.
Yeah, and then the opposite, if you're at an ult advantage and you're playing as a good team, you can just wait with using your ultimates until they commit to you.
Right.
This is how you stop the kiting, you stop them counter snowballing you. You just sit and wait for them.
Right. And this would be point pressure, right? So sitting on payload, whatever.
Sitting on whatever, yeah. And you just wait for them to come, because you're not planning on winning the fight by having better positioning. You're not planning on winning the fight by mechanically outplaying them. You're not planning on a flag. You're planning on using your ultimates. And no matter where you're standing, your ultimates is the same.
Right.
Your ultimate's not going to deal more damage with any of the GOAT's character if you do it straight in front of them or slightly from the side. It's all about setting up straight in front of you, what you can see.
Okay. Perfect. Wow, that's it's really it's fascinating to hear something that just makes sense and feels like it should be obvious, but something that I have not put thought into. And even if I had, I don't know if I would have come to the same conclusion. So that's one of the great things that being a coach, and something I really appreciate with this review, has been stating what look to be complex topics and just explaining them so simply. Like, oh, of course. Like, why didn't I think about that? Why didn't I think about that? It's not hard, maybe for somebody who's actually, worked at understanding it, but taking those concepts and explaining them in a simple way is something that most people could not do as well. So I really appreciate this.
Well, it's 90% of what we do in this meta, right?
Right.
If we are not able to explain things simply to our players, we're never going to be able to do it, because there's so many small things. GOATs is all about the small things. It's not about setting up the big thing. It's all about the small things. Like one bubble mismanagement, you lose.
Right.
Because there is no big setups.
Right.
You're not holding a shield for 1 second. Now you lost the fight. You got eaten to grab. It's all these tiny things. And one eaten grab might lose the map.
Yep.
Because your snowballing with ultimates, you can't do that anymore.
Do you think that sort of concept applies to any other composition that you can think of at the top of your head?
No. And I think it's a very common misconception that GOATs is all macro play.
Right.
People think, oh, GOATs is all about how you place it. No, it's not. It's all the small things.
Yes.
It's all the micro that goes into the... And people have been saying that this is a coach's best stream meta.
Yes.
Because it's all macro. It's all things...
Right.
Well, if your player fucks up a bubble and you lose the fight, but everything else was perfect, you still lose.
Right.
And that is not something you can just fix.
Right.
Because it's so relative to the situation and the player's play style and the opponent your meeting's play style, and it comes into micro in the end. Yes, it's decision mistakes, but you can't teach them every single decision because there's so many of them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's more about understanding, like, this is what this cooldown is used for. And when that cooldown is not used for that purpose, it's a mistake. Whether it's mistiming a bubble that didn't enable ingression, that didn't clear Discord. Because if you get too specific with it, especially with somebody who is inexperienced, like you said, there are just so many scenarios. You can't possibly, as a coach, list all of them. You can't train all of them. You just have to give them what is your cooldown used for and give them the guideline, and then through experience understand, well, that one obviously didn't work out, and getting that sort of experience in the actual match.
And then why didn't it work? Make them think.
Right.
Teach your players to think about things. And that's the biggest part about GOATs is you need your players to think. Player experience is more valuable than coach experience when it comes to GOATs. The coach can be like, hey, you can try this. And then the player's like, yeah, it doesn't work. It worked for him. It doesn't work for me.
Right. Why?
But if you're not able to know what your player, sit with your player and talk about it until we both know, oh, this is why it doesn't work for you because you don't like playing this style.
Right.
He has a better track aim than you and you're more flick aim.
Right.
Maybe you should play this one.
Right.
And then try and get that. But you can't do that unless your players are talking to you.
Right.
And you're able to make your players think and your players are communicating properly. Because as a coach, it's very limited what you can do in GOATs. You can say, oh, we go here and we rotate here and we flip the map here.
Unless you're running Symmetra. Unless you're running Symmetra.
Then it's very much, does the opponent know how to react to it?
Right. Alrighty. So, any last thoughts or topics that you want to touch on before we wrap this up? I really, really appreciate your time, but any last thing that you want to discuss or mention or go over before we wrap this up?
To any viewers watching this, like if you're playing tanks and you don't know what to do, you press W. Just remember that always in your heart, and you will always win as GOATs.
Sweet.
That's the only thing I have in the end, I think.
What a fitting end. We go in depth to it, but we wrap it up as just press W. That's it.
Yeah,
so
if you don't know what to do, you press W because you always learn from it.
Yes, I remember, like you were talking last night in the video I was watching, indecision, not either, not recognizing mistakes first, but also being indecisive about whether you should punish that mistake or not, and that'll get you, and that'll get you.
And the best way to present that to a team would be saying, hey, which one of these two is the right decision? And the team's gonna be, this one is, and then someone's gonna say, no, this is, and you're gonna say it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that you chose to do the same one, all of you.
Right.
All 6 doing the bad thing is better than 4 or 5 of you doing the good thing and 1 of you doing the bad thing.
Right. And that in my opinion, applies to any composition, especially GOATs.
I think it's only GOATs where it's always like that.
Okay.
But I think like in sniper, double sniper, your widow can just pop up. If she goes on a flank, it's a really bad idea, but then she mechanically just clicks 6 heads.
Yes.
And you win that fight, then yeah, it was a bad idea. It was a bad play. It was a solo play, but you won the fight because of it, because Pine is Pine.
Yes.
Drunker Town. You know the clip.
Yes, we know the clip.
Like that's a garbage flank and a garbage idea.
Yeah, that's Pine in a nutshell. It shouldn't work, but it did.
Yeah. And GOATs is not like that.
Right.
In GOATs, there's no way that it shouldn't work, but it works. There is no.
So, like, taking that mindset, would you say that there are, I guess, for lack of a better word, fewer surprises when playing GOATs versus GOATs? As in, let's say Soul. If we're an analyst here and we analyze Seoul Dynasty and the Charge, and Dynasty is continually the better GOATs team in terms of every VOD I can find, every scrim I've ever spectated, they're always the better team. Dynasty versus Charge, Dynasty wins that 99% of the time. Would you say that's the case? As opposed to, let's say, Dynasty and Charge are running dive. Dynasty's the better dive team, but Charge just has a good day. Do you think that's less likely to happen when you're running GOATs because it is such a mental game? It is such a...
Well, to some extent, yeah, I guess what you say is right. But, so GOATs there's 3 levels of GOATs.
Okay.
It is, both teams are decent at GOATs, but one is better mechanical. On tanks. And what you do by playing GOATs then is that you limit your main tank's ability to mechanically outplay the opponent, and therefore you narrow the gap between you guys who are more mechanical skilled than the enemy. And then you have people who are theoretically very good on goats, which is second level, but they lack the mechanics. For them, playing goats against a mechanically much more skilled team is an advantage because they are better at the theory side of the composition.
Right.
Goats is all theory in the end. Like, well, how do you react to this? How do you react to this? Not mechanically outskilling. And then you have a team that has both of those. I'm going to use some examples from E-contenders. I would say that a very mechanically skilled team who lacks some theory could be something as Morningstars.
Okay.
A team that has a lot of mechanics, that has all the theory but not the mechanics, I would say is... how all the theory but not mechanics would be 1 point. Picked up the Eagle Gaming Core. And then one that has both would be Giganti. Giganti has improved a lot over the season. And those are 3 examples with 3 different kinds, and it's why I'm going to say that the winners of Contenders Europe is going to be Windstrike, because you play some weird shit no one else plays. Or it's going to be 1 point? No, not 1 point. I mean Giganti, because of the mechanical and theory side of the team.
Okay,
so
perfect. Cool.
So yeah.
Well, Solheim, I really appreciate you coming on stream, man. I'm sure chat has learned a lot, but I have learned a significant amount. It is rare to have somebody who's, not just willing to do this, but also willing to explain it with such detail and in a manner that's really understandable for the average viewer who may not know anything about goats. So I really appreciate it, man. I learned a lot. I'm sure chat did as well. And I have some of your resources, some of your Twitter and your YouTube channel, which I'm going to toss in chat in just a moment here. If you guys want to check it out, Solheim is the head coach of Young and Beautiful, correct?
Currently, yeah.
Currently, yeah. And he is the past head coach for We Have Organization, and assistant coach for 1 Point in the past. So he's been all over the Tier 3 and Tier 2 scenes. So we really appreciate him coming on here. And thank you, Solheim. It was awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I might have to reschedule in the future. Maybe we'll have to apply more of your big brain in another aspect. So thank you again, man. Have a good day.
You too.
Alrighty. So thank you guys for joining.